Hello. Welcome to the Community Homeworks Workshop. We're so glad you're joining us tonight. My name is Tiana, and I'm the Education and Volunteer Coordinator at Community Homeworks. If you're watching this live, please feel free to comment and let us know where you're tuning in from. Also, if you would like to join in on the discussion or ask questions, please put that in the comment section as well. If you're watching this after the live broadcast, we're still happy to answer your questions. It just may take us a little longer to respond. Community Homeworks is a nonprofit organization with a mission to empower homeowners to maintain safe, sustainable, and dignified homes. We get our fundings from grants, gifts, and donations. So if you find value in this workshop tonight, we encourage you to donate on our website at communityhomeworks.org. So tonight's workshop is a little different from anything that we've ever done before. We are fortunate enough to have our construction team, a member from our construction team, Scott, here. And also, of course, the magnificent Mr. Lee Taylor is here as well. And what we're going to do is learn about DIY ways that we could improve our bathrooms or address bathroom issues if we're able before we have to call a contractor. So what I would like to do is allow both the audience online and the audience in person to ask questions, pesky bathroom questions, or questions that have about your bathroom or your kitchen that have kind of been bothering you that you want a little bit more information about. And then our experts will tell us kind of different ways that they can solve it. So before they get into it, Scott is going to give us a little bit of information about some of the work that he has done since he's been with the organization. And then Mr. Taylor's going to jump in whenever he's needed, but he's also going to be able to answer some of the questions that we have in regards to things that we can do. So we have our props so that if there are questions or if you need a visual description of some of the issues, you will be able to have that. So even though we've never done this class before, I am excited about it. I think it's going to be really great. I look forward to learning a lot. Scott and Mr. Taylor, it's your turn.
All right. Well, I brought up a couple of our past participants, two bathrooms in particular that were really beautiful transformations that we did. This one was, it had like leaky faucets, vanity, the toilet was wobbling, kind of the whole 9 yards. So we just started out by pulling most everything out. So I have a couple of the before pictures on here. We clearly do more than just bathrooms, so there's going to bear with me on some of the pictures that are not a bathroom. But I had some pretty extensive plumbing issues going on. Wow, that went really fast. So if you see anything, you guys feel free to ask any questions too. There's our wonderful Zach. I thought he was going to be here, but I guess not today. But this was one of my first bathroom projects I had here at Community Homeworks, and it got a little overwhelming, but I feel like it turned out really nice when we got done. And a lot of it was stuff that you guys would be able to do too. especially in the shower. So this is the after photo of that bathroom. We took out the tub and put in just a basin because it was somebody that had mobility issues. So we just put a shower stall in and use these tiles here. They're called Palisade wall tiles. I actually have a box of them right there. These would be great for DIY. They just glue up. They're 100% waterproof. You wouldn't necessarily have to hire a contractor for these. I did this shower in like 5 hours, and you can use it the very next day. So using that rather than tile, you don't have to wait so long. Yep, I actually have some progress pictures. And the nice thing with that stuff is you can just put it right over. This is where we had tore that shower stall completely out because we had to sister some boards in. It was pretty extensive. They just pushed together. They kind of overlap. I should pull another one out. Where they it's very similar to your snap flooring you do, but this stuff just slides together and overlaps, and then you just put a little bead of silicone down each line and then just glue it up with the manufacturer's recommended glue. You just score it with like a razor blade and snap it. So you would only want to do the ends up against the wall because they have to click together like that. Oh, got the wrong side there.
So our audience,
that's how they all just snap together like that, and you just run a bead of silicone there, and that just glues up to the wall, and it's not horribly expensive, but it's just so easy to install that it's just a great DIY. And you only have to you can put it right over the moisture resistant drywall. That's all the prep we had to do to that. Just snap the ends, yep. Well, you would cut it.
Oh. So the audience online can't hear the questions that we ask. So what I'm going to do is that when they ask the question, I'll repeat it and then let you answer it.
Okay.
And so what the question is in regards to the flooring is how do you do the corners? Is that the right question?
Yeah. I mean, if that panel, you only do this much of the panel.
Yeah.
The back, and then the other side comes up. You just silicone.
Well, if I'm following you correctly, like in the corners here, the manufacturer, it's a corner bead, a little channel that goes in both corners that you cut the ends enough so there's about a 1/4 inch of play. So you stick it up on the wall and then slide it into position, and you just cut it to the exact length and just leave a little bit of wiggle room so you can slide it into the channel. And you put it in, move it all the way to the left, put your final piece in, and then slide it back so it's in that channel. And then you silicone down that channel at the end, but it matches the wall tiles. That's why you can't really see it in the finished photos.
So I have a question on that one, just because I haven't seen this stuff before. Is there a minimum? Like, do they say they want a minimum overlap, or a minimum of like an end cut piece?
No, I just try to line up the lines like tile, but I think when you're cutting it, you want to leave about a 1/2 inch total off the entire run so you can slide it over and fit your last piece in and then move it back over into the channel on the opposite side. So yeah, which is nice because then you're not having to really make exact, like trying to fit tile into the corner perfectly can be a bit challenging.
Now, can you use one of those guillotines like you'd use on the flooring? You ever use one of those?
I haven't. I've always just
those
score
are
and
nice.
snap stuff.
Yeah, you slide them in and then pull it down and it just cuts.
I'm sure you probably could. I mean, the
So-
manufacturer says just to score it and snap it, but I mean, I've watched videos of people installing that and they're just cutting it with their saw.
Okay.
So I'm assuming you'd have to use a really high tooth blade for that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that was the first one. Any other questions on any of that? Then I also brought up one that this project we did was just kind of the thing with bathrooms. It's like peeling apart an onion. Like you really never know what you're getting into until you start pulling it out. This one was kind of worst case scenario where we had to replace every bit of plumbing, drain lines, water lines, floor joists. Like this one spiraled. We were here for weeks, but we're doing more in this house too. Like I said, we do a lot more than just bathrooms. But this was kind of the beginning of it. Where the toilet was wobbling, these water lines were exposed and they actually ran them across the walls. It was a DIY project that I think people were a little over their head on. And this is one that when it gets to this point, it's probably best to call a contractor in. Yeah, but it was all run exposed. It was all leaking. It rotted out the floor. It was bad. The floor joists, like none of the PEX was secure. It was actually ran. Yeah, I mean, PEX is great for DIY. I love the stuff. I mean, you can replumb a whole bathroom quick. You just have to, yeah, you just have to do it properly, follow the instructions, I guess. This one, unfortunately, they did not. And we ended up having to tear out the entire floor of that bathroom and fix the floor joists and fix the ceiling. I think here's some progress photos as we were gutting that bathroom out.
How often would you say do you run into hacked up floor joists in bathrooms where you have to get into the subfloor?
This was the only one
Okay.
since I've been with Community Homeworks about a year. I've probably done 20 or 30 bathrooms, and this was by far the most extensive one.
Yeah, because what I've run into over the years is that, you know, the older the home, the more repairs have been done and the more floor joists have been cut out and they get compromised and
Yeah, we had to cut.
more and more layers. And
Yeah,
it
this is
just
where the
turns into a
toilet was
mess.
sitting, and whoever had put these lines in first, they cut the floor joist down to where there was like 1 inch of floor joist left.
Yep.
We went through and ran the new lines, and we actually sistered new floor joists across it to stiffen it back up. But it just really spiraled out of control. I mean, we didn't even have all the progress pictures. Eventually, we had all of this floor pulled out because it just got so bad. These lines going to the sink were completely clogged. There's no water, and that's what was causing all the leaks, is just backing up and leaking into the ceiling. Yeah, we had to snap the old pipe because this was all, we couldn't hook to any of it, this old pipe, and it was just into bad repair. We actually cut it off up here and used what's called a Fernco and connected the more modern Schedule 40 PVC to that line. So that's right there. And this was actually, we left a access panel here in the floor when we put the new floor in. So if we ever is any repairs needed to happen in the future, you don't have to pull the entire floor up to do it.
And I do want to remind everybody too, if we say something that doesn't make sense, like sistering or something along that line, and you don't know what it is, speak up. We could rephrase it a little bit. Because I mean, we're horrible at that as far as, you know, in the trades, we're like, blah, 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 blah. And half the people are going, what are you talking about? So
This is the after photo of that bathroom. The other repair tech, Reese, we were working on this one together, and it took us about a week or two to redo this whole bathroom. The two of us working on it. And the floor we use here, it's very similar to that. That's the snap flooring, and love that stuff. So much better than vinyl.
So is all this through community homework? How do you get your housing or please help you over that?
They just tell me where to go. Well, like when a when a participant comes through, I think Tiana or Jason might be able to touch more on that stuff. Don't
Yep,
know a
so
whole
there
lot of
is-
the whole process.
There is an application process for the participants that come into our program. And I can talk to you about that a little bit more after class if you want to.
All right. Any questions? Any comments, Lee?
I would say, as far as if you have, a bathroom in an older home and you're thinking about working on either having it worked on or working on it yourself, one of the first things I would look at closely is the floor joists. I think you had some pictures of them and stuff.
Yeah,
and
I
I
did.
think you had some pictures that had termite damage on them.
There was a lot of dry rot.
Yeah.
That one was pretty overwhelming. I'm not going to lie. Like as we started peeling that onion back, it just spiraled out of control. It felt like.
Well, and the reason I say that is because I've seen it where people spend the time or the money or both and make their bathroom look really nice. They didn't pay attention to the flooring though. They just put they put something over it that made it look good. Didn't pay attention to the fact that the floor joists were almost cut in half. The whole floor is sagging, an inch or two or more. So I mean, anytime I'm going to think about a bathroom or something along that line, especially bathrooms, check that floor first. And if you're not sure, have somebody come out and check that floor, because like I said, that could change a lot of stuff. And sometimes it's you have to break it up. If you're on a more of a fixed income, you might be okay, we're going to fix our floor and the plumbing and that sort of stuff and make it so it's, usable again. And then later work on more of the cosmetic stuff. So sometimes you have to weigh those things out. Yep. Okay.
So
Well, yeah. Right. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's usually damage around the toilet, around the tub or shower, and usually around the some kind of sink. And I've said that, as far as little leaks and what they turn into over time. So
Yeah, I have a little saying that the Grand Canyon started out as a stream. So the longer you let the water issues go, the worse it becomes. And that one that I was just showing you, that was originally just supposed to replace the bathtub with a shower, or actually that one was a tub. The other house was a shower, just like a tub and a bath. And that's all we thought it was going to need just by the initial. That's what the homeowner was saying. And once we started tearing into it, it was just so much worse. And
because a lot of times too, most often what happens is people will put another layer of plywood or something along that line, and you end up with, that much. And when
This
you pull that
place
stuff
had-
off, all of a sudden it's really weak.
yeah, this place had 5 layers
Yeah.
of flooring. And there was actually carpet underneath the vinyl in that bathroom.
Oh, that's a good one right there.
I was seeing if I could find a picture where, you can't, yeah, you can kind of see it here. This is what I usually look to answer your question about how can you tell about the floor. If it's a first floor bathroom, I would go into your basement and you look for the pipe where the toilet flange is at and see how discolored that is right there. That's a great indication that it's leaking. Yep.
Yeah.
All these water stains on the wood. So that's when I go into a home, like I get a work order that says I got a wobbly toilet. First thing I do is go in the basement and look. is the floor rotted? Is the subfloor rotted? Nope, the subfloor looks good. Well, then that either means the toilet flange is too high, or there's a whole bunch of layers of flooring and the under laminate's rotted, which I've found on several, where once I pull the 3 or 4 layers of floor up and put a new subfloor or a new under laminate and flooring down, the toilet's fine. It was just the water damage leaking into the multiple layers of flooring was causing the toilet to rock.
And you can do, I call it a poke test. It's not a technical thing. Again, even a screwdriver, and you can get in there and if it's pushing in more than 3/8, a quarter, or something like that, you might have problems.
Yeah.
So,
So the question is, what about bath fitters? What about bath fitters where they just come and replace the entire?
I have no experience.
yeah,
with
I
them.
don't. If you're thinking, okay, and again, this is part of the issue as far as if you don't quite understand and you look just at the cosmetic part, and I'm not saying they would, but if I had an older home, that bathroom has not been dealt with in a long time, right? And I had an outfit come in and say, we can make your shower look like this and blah, blah, blah. Ask about the bones. What's going on with that? Do you do anything subfloor? Do you do anything with the floor joists that may be cut up underneath that shower or underneath whatever? And, they might say, yeah, we look at that. And if it needs to be replaced or whatever, a lot of times that sort of stuff is, I guess, not looked at, and especially by homeowners, because they don't think about it. And there are outfits, there are individuals out there that will gladly make your bathroom look nice. But if you have all that going on underneath, it's not going to look nice for long. And that's what I'm getting at. So sometimes it's you need to think about the structure more than the appearance of it first, at least. So
Yeah, I think that's happening in a lot of the homes we service is they just have their cousin or their friend or the guy from down the street call me, oh yeah, I can put a new floor in.
right.
Just throw it over the top and say, hey, look how great it looks. Right. And then they're falling through it 6 months later.
Right. Yeah. Band-Aid fix. So
well, at one house in particular we did, the first one I showed you, we actually put like 8 jack posts in the basement because there was so much extensive water damage in that home. The floor joists were just completely rotted out. We had to sister in, which means put new floor joists up against the old ones and then jack the entire house up. I lifted the middle of that house almost 6 inches in the several weeks I was there. So I'd just go there every morning and just start cranking on the jack post until you'd hear a creak and then just stop and then do that again the next day. And I mean, you could, like you said, put a marble on the floor.
Yeah.
That house, you could put a marble on the floor and it'd still be rolling 6 months later because that whole house was just all over the place.
Another way you can check, especially if you have access from the underside, is get some kind of a straight edge along level, something like that, and put it up to the bottom of the floor joist. And if that level is doing this sort of thing, or you can stretch what's called a mason line and have somebody hold one end and stretch it out real hard, and you'll be able to see, if those floor joists are sagging or whatever. Like I said, plumbers, not to pick on plumbers, but I'll pick on plumbers. They love to hack out floor joists.
Oh my gosh.
Because sometimes they don't have a choice necessarily. They have to run a certain area, but they don't get into the fixing what they cut. So
Yeah.
Now, is that flooring that you put in, is that waterproof? That looks like wood.
Yeah, that's a vinyl snap floor that just looks like wood, but it's yeah.
Couldn't know we put wood in that, right?
No. They just wanted to
and you bring up a really good point. You want to make sure whatever you're putting in is rated for high moisture areas. And I've seen that too, where people, something looks nice and they put it down. They don't read the instructions like, this is not meant for bathrooms or kitchens, and then it causes other issues.
Yeah.
What
So-
happens if water gets underneath that vinyl floor?
Well, ideally it wouldn't, but if it does, I think at that point you're pulling it up to dry out the bathroom. There was one house I worked on a couple weeks ago where all their tile was popping up in their bathroom. And it was because water got underneath it and got into the hardy backer and all, which is the subfloor of that, or the under laminate. And yeah, it was just because a little leak in the back of the toilet tank was just dripping down and got underneath it and ruined it all. Which was good because they realized something was wrong pretty quick, so we didn't have to replace the entire floor, but I did have to pull all the tile up. And I put a dehumidifier in the bathroom for a couple of days to dry out the subfloor and just put a new floor down.
Yeah, and two, you know, I mean, you talk about things like that, and you can have a bathroom that is correct in just about every way, right? And occupant behavior is a huge part of all this. I mean, you know, I've fixed things where right outside the shower is just rotted, you know, and the bathroom's, you know, 15 years old. You know, it's not that old, really. And talking with the occupants, you know, you find out that where do they dry off? Well, they stand out in the middle of the room and drip all over the place and then don't clean it up instead of drying themselves off in the shower. So it's little things like that. They don't run their bath fan. High moisture builds up, you know, so there's a lot of little things. Kitchens are similar in a lot of ways, you know, countertops. You know, if you have those laminate countertops, you know, especially if you have like a corner or sometimes even a straight, depending on how long they are, you'll look and there'll be a seam in it, right? And generally you do not let standing water sit on those seams, because what will happen is that the base of that countertop is made of particle board. Once water hits that, it just puffs right up. So again, occupant behavior, fine, you're going to get water on your countertop. That's no problem. Wipe it up. If you get water that goes around your kitchen sink, wipe that up, because, you know, again, you know, that's another big one. I need to replace my $500 countertop that's 10 years old because it's all puffed up around the kitchen sink, and that's easily fixed by wiping it up with the towel and you're done. So it's just getting in the habit of little things like that can make a huge difference. So
There's actually one little trick for what Jason asked, but kind of brought it up to mind when you talk about people drying off outside of the shower. I like to add on the outside of the shower.
Yep.
I'll usually get a piece of the plastic quarter round.
Yep.
And then I'll caulk along the bottom of the bathtub and I'll push that up against and caulk top. So if water ever does come down, it's going to flow over the top of that and out onto the waterproof floor that I put in, rather than going down underneath the floor and ruining the subfloor. It's like a vinyl or plastic quarter round, just a little piece of trim. You probably
you probably have a piece floating around here somewhere.
we got a lot of it out in the shop up in the racks. And I will always caulk along the bottom of the tub.
Yep.
I don't know if everybody does that, but when I'm replacing floors, I put treated plywood down when I'm, especially around the toilet. Yeah, you could.
Yep.
Yeah, sometimes I think they make a really small one. That's when it's the plastic stuff, it's really flexible. So even if you have some bathtubs kind of come out a little bit, you can actually get that plastic stuff around that corner as well.
Yep.
So,
and you know, I mean, a lot of times, especially with like the vinyl products that Jason's probably going to find,
there's a couple cases of it out there.
You don't necessarily even need to nail it. If you get a good, I say silicone, some kind of a sealant. You know, a lot of times if it's cleaned right and it's, you know, dry and you apply it, you can hold it with tape or something along that line. So you're not having to nail it in. So you're not trying to either nail into the tub. I've seen that one. Or nail into the floor. So, but a lot of times you need to really read what that, whatever it is that you're using.
Well, that's not the plastic stuff, but same difference.
Yeah.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
Oh, that's not around the tub.
Yeah. This is
We
the,
have some
Can you-
really small pieces. Did you go out in the wood
this
rack?
is the foam stuff. Yeah.
Oh, well, I
Yeah.
actually have the plastic stuff out in the wood rack in the shop.
So for our at-home participants, can you?
No,
kind of
it's
explain
like,
what we're doing right now?
it's been a long day at work. What am I thinking of? It's almost like pure vinyl. So it is real flexible, and it doesn't, if you were to cut off a piece and throw it in a bucket of water and let it sit there for days and days and days, it doesn't do anything. That's the other thing too, is that, sometimes, if you're buying something and you have a certain idea for that certain product, you want to look into it, does it react to water? That sort of stuff. Sometimes they'll say water resistant versus very few people say waterproof. But, there are things out there that are just, yes, they can get wet. Are they meant to get wet or stay wet? No, not necessarily. And then there are other things out there that don't really care. So sometimes, what you pick can make a huge difference. So a little homework. So
Definitely read the package, right?
yeah, read the package, ask questions, do whatever you need to do. So, and sometimes it's something as simple as, your layout, putting towel bars near the shower or the tub so somebody doesn't have to get out. They can just reach it from that shower or the tub or whatever. It's sometimes it's little details like that that can make a big difference. So, and a lot of people too, they think about the bulk moisture water itself, but there's water in other forms as far as high humidity levels, that sort of stuff too. So, and that can cause a whole other array of problems. So,
Yeah, I'd definitely
having a good
recommend
bath fan that works,
good bath
That's it.
fan.
that's a big one.
That was actually, we had to install one of those on this job.
Yep, that one's it.
We
Right
actually
over the shower.
because it had a low ceiling in this house. It was a really old home. Barely had 7-foot ceilings in it.
Yep.
So I actually tiled the ceiling too, just to help get
Right.
rid of the moisture.
Now, a fan like that, it's right in the shower. That has to be like a GFI protected circuit.
Yeah.
So it's little things like that that are
Yeah.
Yeah.
This one's
Yeah.
actually an automatic. It was a GFCI protected automatic bath fan that
Yep.
had a moisture sensor.
Yep.
So when I was in that house working, it was in the summertime. It actually got quite humid out. They didn't have the air conditioning on, and that bath fan kicked on just because it recognized the amount of moisture in the air just from being humid here in Michigan.
Yep.
So,
Stayed in there.
yeah, it just kept going.
Yeah, and they've come a long way with bath fans. I mean, the old bath fans used to be horrible. It just made a lot of noise and didn't really move much air. And we'll talk about this in other classes too, but generally if you pick a bath fan, you can pick the world's best bath fan, let's say. If it is not run right, what I mean is, it says, needs 4-inch pipe. And somebody uses too small of a pipe or too large, and they put a bunch of elbows and bends into it and stuff, it's not going to vent. The other thing that's sort of interesting about bath fans and hood vents, but we're talking about bath fans, is they have what are called CFM. So how much air does this bath fan move in a certain amount of time? The higher the CFM, generally the better the bath fan. But here's the kicker on all that. When they test them, they have no ductwork hooked up to them. Once you hook up ductwork to it, it starts knocking down how much air can actually move. You have elbows, it adds like 20 feet, 10 feet. So yeah, just because you have a good bath fan, you have to make sure it's run properly as far
And
as the
running
exhaust
outside of
goes.
your house, too.
Right, and running it to the outside, not just dumping it in an attic or something.
Find a
along that
lot of
line.
people dump it in the attic and think it's all right.
And then the problems move up there. So, yeah, and it's just like you said, it's moisture really in any form is just not good. So, it's can cause a lot of problems and rapidly sometimes.
I was hoping I had a good picture. Well, you can kind of see where it popped through the wall of that house. That was the
Yeah,
because this house didn't have an exhaust fan, so that was something we added, and it's pretty easy. They sell these where this is just a piece of aluminum that pops right through the exterior wall, so you just cut your hole, slide it through there, and then hook your ductwork right up to that. And I mean, I say it's easy, but it can be not very easy.
yeah. But again, these are not the nice thing, the things that a lot of people don't necessarily think about, and sometimes spending that money on those items that, when you look at it, yeah, this is a bath fan, okay, but like,
That was the picture I was looking for. They've been recommending insulated.
Yep.
Running your vent pipe to use insulated vent pipe for these. 'Cause
especially if it's going in an attic.
yeah, causes a lot of moisture inside of the pipe.
Right. So, yeah, it's you said bathrooms can be tricky occasionally. If you have, like I said, if you have a good floor, subfloor, that sort of thing, your floor joists look good, and you don't have much sagging going on, you don't have 5 layers of whatever going on, right? Then you can start getting into more of those projects, and sometimes breaking it down into different parts can help. I've seen it where it's the whole bathroom needs it, but they decide, okay, we're going to deal with floor joists or whatever, do that sort of stuff. They may need to run some new plumbing like PEX or something along that line. Fine. And they say, okay, I don't have enough money for, whatever, but I can put a new shower in and, reuse some of the other stuff that I've had, and then wait until you can, like I said, do it in stages sometimes. And there's nothing really wrong with that. Don't look the prettiest half time. It is possible to do it that way.
There was one thing we didn't touch on too when doing DIY, especially in older homes, is lead paint.
Yep.
So that's something where you want to get your home tested for lead. That's why, that's a HEPA-vac right there that we use. There wasn't any lead in this one, but that's something you'll want to do before you start tearing into your own home, is get some lead check kits to go around your house and look for the lead paint, especially if you have kids or grandkids. It can be like permanently damage children. Lead is really bad. So
asbestos is one of those things that you might find it in the bathroom. Asbestos is one of those things you can't, if somebody were to look at something and say, oh yeah, that's asbestos. Well, I'm going to get to that point. For somebody to just say, yes, that's asbestos, don't trust that. That's one of those things that it usually shows up in certain items and it looks a certain way, but it has to be tested. It's about the only way it can be actually positively identified is if they send it in for testing.
we've had to do that on a couple of jobs where we
Right.
weren't quite sure. So we took a sample, sent it off to a lab, found out it wasn't asbestos, and then continued on. If it is asbestos, like leave it alone is like,
Yep.
just leave it alone. And it's fine if you just leave it alone. But I don't even think we can get rid of it at Community Homeworks. I
Yeah.
believe there's companies in Kalamazoo that will do that, but
That
It's
gets
just-
expensive.
very expensive.
And the other thing, is like lead, like Scott was saying, as far as lead, asbestos. The other thing is, I think you had a picture of one of these, is the potential mold or mildew. And I'm not saying like black mold, like the stuff that's going to kill everybody, right? I'm talking about the stuff that's just going to aggravate, and sometimes when you get into these projects and you start pulling this stuff apart, that mold will kick up into the air. And they have things that you can actually rent. They're called air scrubbers. And you kick that thing on, and it has a HEPA filter in it. And what it does is it circulates that air and helps catch those mold spores from being, very effectively distributed throughout the home, right?
Yeah, you can see some of it on this house had a lot of mold in the basement, and I fogged the
Yep.
entire basement with a mold killer.
Do you do the stuff you can rent, the plug-in fogger?
Yep.
Yeah, those are really nice.
Yeah, I
Yep.
like using those. 'Cause
So yeah, and I mean, if you if you have somebody that is sensitive to that sort of stuff, you can rent those air scrubbers. We rented one time. It was that big. I was like, eesh. I was
Yeah.
thinking of the window air scrubber like this.
Yeah, this
So,
one we actually have an air scrubber out in the shop that I was running in this house
Yeah.
almost the entire time I was working there. I had it right in the room when I was demoing that bathroom. There was so much mold back behind those walls that I just had it taped off plastic over the front of the door, and I had an air scrubber going, and I was wearing a mask the whole time, and I was HEPA vacuuming 10, 20 times a day. It felt like just trying to keep the mold in that room because you don't want to spread it around the house.
So thank you so much. I wanted to take the last couple minutes to see if there were any questions from the audience to give them the opportunity to get some answers from the experts that we have here. So I don't know if anyone has any specific questions in regards to projects that they have or projects that they're looking to start, but this would be the perfect opportunity. Or if you are wondering if there is something that, because like Scott said, it's kind of like peeling an onion. So if there is a specific spot in your bathroom or in your kitchen that you may have some questions about, I just wanted to open up the floor for the opportunity for you to get answers to those questions.
How do you declog them?
Well, hold on 1 second. Because can you repeat that question?
she's like,
How
what are you
do
doing?
you declog a toilet? I mean, a tub drain.
Oh, well, you can pull this. Usually there's two little screws holding that down. Sometimes they have to screw out with a special tool. I think that's mostly on kitchen sinks, but just try to run a pipe snake down it. But
I tried that. It only goes like so far, and then it's like, I tried that. It only goes so far, and then it stops. So I don't know what's.
can you
going on
see
to
the
get it.
trap in is this your bathtub?
Yes,
Is that a first floor or second floor?
first.
First floor. Can you see the trap from the basement? Like where the drain line comes out of your bathtub going into
It
the
may look
basement?
like this, just a little larger.
I've never looked for that in the basement. So I don't know.
Well, sometimes this is called a P-trap. A lot of the times on tubs, they'll have this little nut on the bottom of it that you can unscrew and then snake up that way and then snake this way. Sometimes it depends on who did your plumbing. Sometimes you can unscrew this part and pull it out and see, but sometimes they just get so stinking clogged, like you can't get your snake around that corner. So that would be the first thing I'd look and see if it had a clean out. Because when I install ones in showers, especially ones in basements that are accessible, I always get the one that has the clean out on the bottom.
So what if it's not accessible from the basement?
If there's no clean out in the basement, if you can't snake it yourself, that would probably be when I would call somebody like Roto-Rooter or no.
Not the answer you wanted.
I called Roto-Rooter before, and it's like
Drain monkeys.
Come in the house at $70, and by the time they leave out, it might be
Well, you could put an application in with us, and you could have me come over and clean it out for you. Well, there's drain monkeys that we use. I think that's one of our subcontractors when we're having the snake. Sometime, you know, it could be hair. Who knows if you have kids? Who knows when you have kids? I found shower heads lodged in toilet traps. I guess I was trying to snake this toilet. I could not snake it. Finally replaced the toilet, and I broke the toilet because I just had to know. I had to know what was clogging this thing up. It was a shower head, was in the trap of the toilet. Curious minds have to know.
Oh, yeah.
My upstairs, because my bathroom upstairs, I have problems with my shower draining. I was having, and I know my pee trap part is behind in my attic. It's a little wall.
You have here. It's accessible then.
Yes,
That's
I can
good.
take it off. I haven't done that yet, but I was, lifting up the part on the tub. So, like I wanted to take a bath,
Mhm.
that was broke. So I had to take the 2 screws out. I YouTubed it.
As
The 2
the,
screws out, lift the thing up.
Yep.
I just was afraid to put it back, but my water did start to drain,
Huh.
which was crazy.
Gotta love how to.
But I really need to put it back. But yeah, the drain, especially with the trap. I mean, so I should just still, because it's draining a whole lot better, but I still should go in my attic and take that panel off there because it's got a whole sleeve.
Yeah, and see if you have a clean out in there where you could clean that out from the bottom. And that is really great though. Like there's plenty of times where I've just run into things. I'm like, oh, I'm sitting here scratching my head, and I'll just go to YouTube as well. It's a great resource. There's always somebody doing something on there.
the other, I will say, sometimes you saw the cast iron lines, those drains. I think you had some pictures of them where they put the Fernco on. They went from PVC to those cast iron lines. I've seen it sometimes where those cast iron lines get so corroded and whatnot, especially the smaller ones like 2-inch, somewhere in that line. And sometimes, not necessarily that size, but if they get a little smaller, I've seen it where they just are so corroded on the inside that it's stuff catches and everything
That's
else.
exactly why we had to replace all of this,
Yep.
because this line went across to the sink. And it was that's why we ended up tearing that whole floor out, because it was so clogged. Thank God we figured it out before we sealed the floor back up, because those pipes, that original drain lines going across, were so corroded, like he had said, that you couldn't even roll a marble down that drain line. It was completely clogged, so we ended up replacing all of those drain lines.
And it's cast iron. Yeah, and it's not necessarily, it's not something necessarily can be augured out. You're talking about like metal corrosion and stuff like that, and then the things that catch on it.
Yeah, that's what somebody had actually done. Somebody had put this PVC in. This was from where the vanity was at. And it went about this far, and then it went into those cast iron lines with a Fernco. But the cast iron, like none of this. I mean, it was a happy mistake. That's why I learned something pretty good that day.
There's your air scrubber.
Yeah, there's the air scrubber right there.
Here.
I
knew I saw a picture of it.
Always run that thing when I'm doing demo. We've got HEPA filters on it, but I was trying to replace all that line across, and I was really wrenching on trying to get that cast iron to come apart, and it just twisted off with the pipe wrench, and then that's when I was able to look through it. You couldn't even see through it, and it was a 2-inch pipe. Couldn't see light through it.
And galvanized, like I said, we've talked about this. Galvanized water lines will do the same thing. They'll just slowly So, sometimes it's the not so glamorous things you want to go after as
Yeah.
far as, because
Is
again,
it feasible to have for a homeowner to replace those cast iron lines, or is that something you need to hire a plumber for?
I mean, if it was my house, I'd do it myself, but I would not recommend that.
yeah,
That's really something you want to get a plumber in
Yeah.
to do.
even cutting those lines can be tricky. I mean, you can rent what's called a chain cutter.
And that's what I cut that with. And
Yeah.
it was like, you get one chance.
And you're just like, you wrap this chain around it and it snaps it, but it's brittle. That old cast iron is brittle.
This one snapped nice and clean, but I was a coworker looking at Reese. You get one shot at this. This could shatter, and then you're replacing that line all the way down in the basement, all the way up through the roof, which I've had to do in the past where working on homes with old cast iron, like you get one shot, you snap it, and you're toast, you're replacing all of it.
Yep.
That's something that I would definitely, to answer your question, hire out.
Yeah.
Because then it's their problem if they break it that bad, not yours.
Right. And it's, bathrooms / kitchens are notorious for hiding problems, like Jason, what you say as far as Scott was saying, as far as the onion, the more you peel back, the more you go, ooh. So you just got to really watch it. It's, sometimes there's a lot to be said about having somebody come out that does good work. There are so many people out there that do, I don't want to say they do bad work, but they do bad work. And you just got to watch it.
I think that's a lion's share of what we're repairing, at least from what I've seen in the year I've been with Community Homeworks, is that we're chasing around the contractor that they hired. Oh yeah, my neighbor up the road, he's a contractor. You mean con man?
And too is I've said this before in a lot of other classes. If you're hiring somebody, ask those questions. You have insurance. Are you insured? Are you licensed? Do you have references? Of projects you've done like 5 years ago, so you can talk to those people. Because the bathroom will look fine initially. Right. So, do that due diligence, really look into that sort of stuff and be wary of somebody who comes knocking at your door saying, I can fix this for you. Really cheap. So
what's the saying? You can have it in the contracting world and home improvements, you can have it good, fast, or cheap, but you can only pick two of them.
Yep.
If you want it good and fast, it's going to be expensive. If you want it good and cheap, it's going to take a long time. You can't have all three. If somebody's offering you all three, look for the next person.
Yeah.
Nobody does it good, fast, and cheap.
Yeah.
And on that note,
Oh, we all scared you.
I wanted to take the opportunity, first of all, Scott, to say thank you very much. You did a phenomenal job, and we look forward to having you maybe give us some more of your experience in this realm of reality. The magnificent Mr. Lee Taylor, it's always a pleasure for you to bring your years and years of knowledge into this space. I wanted to thank the in-person participants. We had a really good time. I hope that you guys will consider joining us next Tuesday. I'll make sure that there are very good snacks here. For the people in our virtual world, I wanted to take the opportunity to invite you into our space at 812 Bryant Street on Tuesdays at 6 p.m. We would love to have you. And on that note, I want to say good evening and thank you all for joining us, unless we have some comments or questions.
What's our next week class? Because it's related to this.
Well, next week's class is toilet repair. So we are looking forward to anyone that
Is that the hands-on toilet
That is
repair?
the hands-on toilet repair by the magnificent Mr. Lee Taylor.
That's fun.
So if you guys are looking to figure out what to do about the wobbly toilet, please consider joining us in person on Tuesday. And on that note, I will say good evening.
All right.